Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our ecological innovation showcase for June 2025. My name's Doyle. I'm the industry manager for ecologic, and I'll be your host for today. And along with me today is my colleague Lily Rose Palmer, senior industry advisor, who'll be co-hosting and also taking over if anything happens to today's presentation. So whilst you barrel through the virtual front door, I again want to thank you for making your way to our showcase this morning. Whilst you're filling in the seats, I'd like to start by acknowledging, although we're meeting virtually, that we still meet on traditional lands. So for me, I'm dialing to you today from the lands of the Bunurong people of the Eastern Kulin Nations. I'd like to pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging, and any Aboriginal and First Nations people we might have with us here today, and also acknowledge the traditional lands that where you might be dialing in from as well, right across Victoria or Australia, or maybe even abroad. I think we're expecting over 80 people for today's session, so there should be a large representation. So if this is your first time coming to one of our showcases and you may be unfamiliar with ecologiQ, this is a little bit about who we are. ecologiQ is a Victorian Government initiative to really implement something called the Recycle First policy on the Victorian transport projects. So it is part of a broader step change towards what we call a circular economy, because we do want to see waste not going to landfill, but certainly as a resource. And because it really is just about, if you put it simplistically, the highest and best use of resources and just much better resource management. So we know that to extract and use and dispose is pretty probably not very sustainable in the long run, and where we can divert from landfill and use materials for far better purposes. And some of the organisations that are here today will talk to you about what they're doing on that front. That's that's what we talk about when we talk about a circular economy. So and how the Recycle First policy works. Just for those who might be working on some of our projects, it is about optimizing use of recycled materials. So we're not saying that recycled materials are the most important thing. It needs to make sense from a carbon perspective, from a cost. Is it available into to where you are? And so that's what we talk about when we say optimize, because we want to look at the holistic impact of that. But secondly, if we are using those materials, we want to capture the data around that. So our projects actually report on the materials and volumes of recycled materials used on their projects. And I'm happy to report that to date, we've seen over 5.6 million tonnes of materials used on Victorian transport projects, which if you're Victorian, that's enough to fill 2.2 mcgs. So yeah, just a metric that we use down here to talk about, how much and how big and how large of an impact things might be. So along with me today, we've assembled a couple of expert panelists. So if our panelists I would like to switch their cameras on, they've come along here today to help, ask of our presenters questions and perhaps, have a think about what questions the audience members might have as well. So I'd like to introduce to you firstly Ben Matters, who's Senior Manager Technical Services with Major Road Projects Victoria. Ben, did you want to say hello to the audience?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. These are always fun. So hope you enjoy the different products shown today.
Thank you, Ben. And we have Tracy Carey, Senior Manager Sustainable Infrastructure with MRPV, who joins us today also. Tracy.
Yep. Hey, thanks for having me today. Like Ben, super excited just to see some of these new and emerging products, and here to help see how we might be able to facilitate their use, or friendly questions because it's a Friday. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks, Tracy. And last but certainly not least, we have Nicholas Lee, who's the Manager for Materials Assurance with the Department of Transport. Nicholas.
Morning, all. Here for the Materials Assurance team. So our team looks after registration schemes and various other assurance activities for the Department of Transport. We've got a really keen interest in trying to understand the new products that are coming onto our market, and the team is pretty keen to try and support that Recycle First policy as best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. So that's our panel, folks. And just a little bit about today's format and housekeeping. You're going to hear three presentations. So we'll start off with Stratex. and then we'll follow by Outwest Concrete and block text. So the format, look, as a rough guide, is we'll ask that our presenters provide a 10-minute pitch, and then after that, allow 10 minutes for Q&A from our panelists. So if you're in the audience, you won't have video audio functionality, but if you do have any questions, please put it in the Q&A in your Zoom chat function, and we ask that you direct it to the panelists. So is it for Stratex, or is it for Outwest Concrete, or for block text? And those presenters will hop into the Q&A after their presentations and answer those questions for you. After that, we'll also do a bit of we're calling it a Where Are They Now, where we'll catch up with Edwina Walsh from Assembled Threads, and one of our previous presenters who's been on the showcase before. And again, if you have any questions, just pop it in there as well. So without further delay, I think up first, I now introduce to you Nelson Earl from Stratex to talk to you about their Gork to Us recycling program. Nelson, over to you.
Thank you, Doy. Great to be part of this program. We've been on it before and really enjoy the feedback that we have from the team. So we'll start off with just a little bit about us, about the Gork to Us recycling program. So we'll click on to the next slide. So the agenda is basically talking about recycled products, how to get involved, and how we support social enterprise. So we can go to the next slide. So about Stratex, just a little bit about us. We specialise in environmental and personal protection. So we supply a lot of civil projects out there, and we supply a lot of environmental products as well, environmental controls to larger infrastructure projects. So that then obviously extends into mining areas and various other areas of supplies. Go to the next slide. So one of the challenges that's come up in a few of these events that we've been to, some of the ecologic conferences we've had, is the recycling of Gork mesh. It's been often a problem, and there's been very little done about it. It's been going into landfill. So what we do is we've come up with a few innovations where we collect the Gork screen and we turn it into usable products for the construction industry. So we've come up with what we call a Gork to Us program, which means that we go out to the sites, we collect the Gork screen, and then we turn it into usable products. We partner with Assembled Threads, who is one of our main manufacturers for these particular products. Let me just turn. So the first product that we released, which was our leader, was what we call the recycled silt sock. So it's a sock made out of Gork mesh. It's filled with recycled aggregate, which is a washed drainage rock. It goes through a heavy washing process, so 3 times it goes through, and then it's then suitable to use as drain protection. These socks are generally used around drains, so when there's any potential contaminants from site, some silt and sediment that needs to be kept from the drains, we place these socks around the drains. It allows the water to seep through, but then holds back any silt and sediment. On top of that, we've come up with other solutions made from the same product. We've come up with what we call a 100% recycled drain guard. So that, with the banner mesh, there's a couple of different grades of mesh. So there's one with a quite open weave, and we haven't been able to do much with that. So we've come up with the idea of sewing what we call a spiltration material, which is a fully recycled material made out of mattresses and post-industrial waste. That gets sewn to the Gork mesh. It also filters down to 53 micron as well, and that then gets placed over the drains. As you can see by the photo, that then is held down by recycled silt socks. That then improves the effectiveness of the silt sock. So anything getting through that, you might say dam wall, then has to go through that filter media, which filters the 53 micron, which gives you obviously added protection for your drains. Can easily be cleaned. You just simply lift up, remove, clean, and replace. Also, we've made out of the same material a filter mat, which we call a recycled spill mat sleeve. That sleeve is obviously made out of the same material, and we can insert a absorbent pad, which is a very large absorbent pad. You can stack those pads inside there 3 or 4 deep if you want added protection. The pad itself is hydrophobic, so you can leave it out in the weather, or if it gets wet, the water beads off it and it captures the hydrocarbon. The beauty of this product is that you can just remove the inner, which is the absorbent pad, and continue to use the outer sleeve. Sleeve also can be staked down to the ground, so in windy conditions, you've still got added protection, ground protection from any leaks. Also, you can use that pad in the back of utes. There's various uses where if there's any risk for pollution and ground contamination, the recycled spill mat sleeve is one of the market leaders. Also, I've come up with a spill kit liner bag, which has only been released this week. So a lot of issues on site, particularly is servicing spill kits. So traditionally there's been no liner bag. So the spill materials are just put in a bin. When there's a spill, whether it be a minor or a large spill, everyone's got to fish into that bin, and a 240-litre bin is reasonably deep. By the time you get to the bottom of that bin, you've got a fair risk of either injuring your back or making your clothes totally dirty. Also, if you can't get to the bottom, most people tip the bin upside down and get the components out. They then land on the ground and get contaminated. So it's always been a problem with this concept of a spill kit liner. It makes it so much easier. You just lift the product out of the bin. You've got it all at your eyesight, and saves leaning issues into the bin with injuring your back and also creating a mess on the ground. So it's a really good initiative. I think it will be, it'll go places, that one. So I just want to touch on who we partner with, which we partner with Assembled Threads. Have been fantastic. Obviously, as the journey unfolds, we're getting new products all the time. That's a photo of the team sewing up a silk sock. So very exciting to partner with them. So that's just gives you a brief rundown of the circular economy of where we get the materials off the civil sites. With collecting, and then we're transporting, going to assemble. It's cleaned, cut, sewn, so it all goes through a process. All the cork screen, when it's used, it goes through a cleaning process as well, and then does the full circle, gets filled, ready for use, and then back on site again. How to get involved. So you can reach out to us if you've got any gork mesh on site that needs to be repurposed. We'll go out and collect it, and we will then turn it into products for your particular site. So if anyone's got any other ideas of products that can be manufactured out of that material, or any suggestions, we're always pleased to hear. A lot of these innovations have only been available because of feedback, and there's always challenges on site. There's always products that can be made, and we've got 2 ears, and we're certainly listening to any suggestions of anything that can be done. But we'll do a quote on what we can repurpose it into, what suits your site, and then we'll obviously might turn that gork mesh into something that you can use. Also, there's another product which we're just releasing now. It's called the Rubber Form Track Out Control Mat. This is made with 100% recycled rubber. It's an absolutely fantastic product. It also can be recycled at end of life. So it comes with a 5-year warranty. You can get it out there on site once it's finished its use. Like anything, when trucks and heavy machinery eventually will get to a point where it needs to be replaced, that can be recycled again and made into other products. So there's nothing in that rubber that's no plastics or anything like that, which will actually inhibit it, the recycling process. Also a great product. You can install it in minutes, doesn't need staking down. It just literally goes straight across the ground surface. Easy to shift. It concertinas up into, a quarter of the size, easy to transport. Yeah, and the surface doesn't necessarily have to be dead flat. So there's a lot of benefits and features on this particular product. I think it's going to be another exciting one, especially involving rubber. So that takes me to the end of the presentation. Happy to hear any questions.
Thanks, Nelson. That was fantastic. I think it may have been a bit of a surprise for the audience to hear about the spill kit bin liner and also those control mats. So that's fantastic. I suppose I invite now our panelists to join the and with any questions they might have. Tracy, because you've turned your camera on first, would you like to go first?
Yeah, look, thanks, Nelson. Also, I think for me, like Doy, the spill kit bin, that kind of stepped out for me a bit. And I'm just kind of curious in terms of like next iterations, are there considerations for maybe concrete washout bags or anything in that kind of next step? That'd be really interesting, particularly from that point of view, or like kind of sediment washout areas as well. Could be another option. I don't know if you guys have, if you can, talk to maybe some next steps potentially on that as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Concrete washout bags are certainly used in large numbers. They have an internal liner, plastic liner, but we could look at turning or manufacturing something. There will be some challenges obviously involved in that due to weight loads.
Yeah.
With concrete washout, everything has to be load rated, so there may be some challenges there, but it's certainly a good product to use. It could be sewn up. Anything that can be made anywhere.
Yeah.
Is it just may need some more additional strengthening to come up to the standards, but yeah, very, very good idea. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be good. And I think for us, certainly taking some of your details and pushing those around projects in terms of the collection piece. And the last question I had was, in terms of the material that you take from our sites, are there any kind of acceptance condition criteria, or you just take as is, it's all good?
We do ask that it's in good condition, fair and reasonable condition. And often it does happen on some sites where you get product that's got shredded. It's completely, you get to a point where there's not much you can do with it.
Yeah.
We have been sort of fairly lenient, as long as there's some good product in there. If there's a little bit of product that can't be used, well, we would make the call on that. The main issue with initially we tried to repurpose everything that was given to us. The issue then is when it's going back into the marketplace, there's a risk of it not lasting like it should. Obviously there've got to be value in the product. It's got to go back to site. It's got to be fit for use and fit for purpose. So our decisions recently as to if there's anything that's really unsuitable, we would not be able to use that.
Yeah, perfect. Great.
Thanks, Nelson. Thanks, Tracy. Nicholas or Ben? Nicholas.
And Nelson, really good presentation. Really good to see partnering with the local industry as well to produce these type of products. You've touched on it already a little bit around that consistency and quality of that end product. I just had a question about, you've touched on the feed of that material, which is, obviously a very important factor there. What considerations or what things do you have in place in the production or the manufacturing process to ensure the consistency of product?
Yeah, that's a good question. So once the first step we collect it, we would then go through and internally remove anything that we weren't happy with. So it goes through a process of looking at that, value what we can use it for. Sometimes there's some products, if there is a slight flaw or hole, it can be patched. So we would grade that material. So we tend to use first grade material. We call it first grade, which is something that hasn't been affected by the UV, etc. So we go through that process. And if we're happy with the quality of the product, it then goes to the washing. It goes and gets washed, cleaned professionally, then comes back again. And then we have another view over it as we're packing it onto pallets, ready to go, or box ready to go to assembled threads. We would then have another visual at it as we're packing it, just to make sure that we're happy with the product. And then once it goes to assembled threads, when they manufacture it, they also, if there is an issue or they feel that there may be a quality issue in some of the products, they often give me a phone call to say, are you happy if we use this, or can we use it for something else? So there is processes in place to make sure the product does come out in saleable form. So that's thank you for the question.
Thanks, Nelson. And just one more, just about the recycled silt sock. You've mentioned that there's a recycled aggregate filling. So just trying to understand, is the sourcing of that
Yes.
recycled aggregate, and maybe what material properties you're looking at when it comes.
Yeah. So that comes from Repurpose It. They have rock that they're used for obviously different purposes. It goes through a cleaning process, so it's more of a, what we call it, an aggregate. It's more of like a drainage rock the way it comes out. It's closer to, I guess it's closer to blue metal than anything else. It's not really a concrete based product. Initially, the first silt socks that came out were used concrete, like a recycled concrete, which wasn't fit for purpose. And that was, as you go through the journey, you find product that is going to work and some product is not going to work. We've been using that product from Repurpose It, and go through a triple cleaning process, which they only do for us. And then the end result is a very good quality rock, which is in size around 15 mil. And that comes out as a drainage style of rock. And it's definitely not a concrete based rock. It is more of a pure rock.
Very good. Thanks, Nelson.
Thanks, Nicholas.
This is Ben.
Thanks, Doug, and hi, Nelson. I'll keep it quick. Just curious, this product, it seems great and really great to see a waste product being turned into something useful. Does its previous life or anything about the product have an impact on performance or service life as compared to other products in the market, or even maintenance? I know some of these particular products tend to be kind of not set and forget, but people throw them out there and expect them to just do their job in some pretty harsh conditions.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. To touch on the recycled silt socks, probably the one that's going to get abused the most out there in the field. The way that we've designed it with the stitching, it's all marine grade stitching. The actual quality of the product is actually far superior than what you would have in an imported Chinese product. There's a lot of issues on site. As soon as you drive over a silt sock, it bursts because of obviously the rock just pierces through the outer casing. We found with the Gork mesh, because it's slightly flexible, it'll actually absorb that the rock forcing against, say, a vehicle driving over it. And obviously in civil sites, you do get abuse, you do get various things coming across it. We've done testing and comparisons, and we would get between 2 to 3 times the life out of a traditional Gork screens sock compared to a Chinese imported version. So quality is up there. I would say to everyone, if you put a 40-ton or 60-ton excavator over it with steel tracks, it doesn't matter what you've got a problem. So, but general driving over with utes and vehicles that you would have on those sites, the testing that we've done is at least 2 to 3 times longer life. So that's added value to the product. If was that your question based around
that?
That?
Pretty much. I guess with that in mind, I'd just say what's preventing this being used now, if anything? Is it knowledge, awareness? Is it cost? Is it supply? Like what do we?
Yeah, so out there in the field, we've sold well over 2,000 of the silt socks in Victoria alone. So nationally, we'd be up around 3,000 units and continually selling them every day. So they are out on the sites. Suburban Connect have put them on their sites. I think there's a LinkedIn post with them in situ. There's plenty of other projects, John Holland, Fulton Hogan. There's many civil companies that are currently using them on sites. The only pushback you do get is the initial buy price. If they're not aware that the product itself is superior and going to last longer, for want of a better word, the bean counters look at the bottom line and say, your sock's this, we can get a Chinese one for that. But generally, once they've trialed them and used them on site, they're very, very happy. So it's one of the challenges that we are faced is how do we create value to the customer? And really, it's one of those products where you've got to use it, trial it. We've got all the data available as well. So if anyone wants any testing or any information, we can supply that.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nelson. And I think just to reiterate that point, I think the silt socks have been out for some time. And I think Edwina just popped in the chat. You've produced 4,552 silt socks already that have been used on our projects, and I think the feedback has been that they are more durable than the traditional. So, which is great to see that, because often, there's a lot of questions around if it's a recyclable product, will it perform the same? And there's in one instance where it sounds like it's actually superior. It's great to see.
It is definitely a superior product, and all the other products aren't under the duress, obviously, that a silt sock is. It's got rock inside of the other products themselves, like a bin liner bag's going to last forever. So it's a one-time purchase, and I think it could save. We've all had probably back issues at some time of our life, and yeah, if we can prevent one issue, it can save a serious lot of money for a company to pay out when you're diving into bins and pulling out spill response absorbance. Sounds a very, very easy thing to do, but once you're actually out there in the field doing it in practicality, and literally find that people just don't stock up the spill kits because it's too hard.
Yeah. With that, I think thank you, Nelson, for that presentation from Stratex. Nelson, I think there's a couple of questions for you in the Q&A that you can hop into. Feel free to have a chat there. And I'll move on now to our next presentation. I think my internet cut out for a second. I think I've lost my screen share, so I'm just going to bring that back up. There we go. Get some feedback. Are we now? Let's get some feedback from someone. Are we looking at the Outwest Concrete?
Yes, all good.
All good. Thanks, Leroy. So now invite Glenn out and from Outwest Concrete to come and talk to us about their Earthwise concrete mix. Glenn, over to you. Just tell me when to go into the next slide.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Glenn Oughton from Outwest Concrete. Very new to all this presentation stuff, where this is a growing market for us and a first time ever presenting, so bear with me and my nerves. So with our, I'll go to the next page. So who are we? We're a locally owned family business from the west suburbs of Melbourne. We've been around for the best part of 35 years. We've got 2 batch plants located in Hops Crossing and Sunshine North. Fair sized fleet that can service and supply the premix market. We're in final stages of auditing for our ISO accreditations and in early process of getting our EPDs and a few other certifications as well. So next is so our main market where we specialised and grown massively in is the decorative paving market. We're not known for being the big volume chasers. We're more of a smaller niche market where we specialise on doing something right and doing something good. through our exposed mixes, colour mixes, paving supply, and all, etc. So, being that that's been a big footprint of ours, we're looking at taking the next step. So, really, in the next step of our presentation, this is our what we're bringing to the table for this market in the low carbon concrete world, our Earthwise range. Our Earthwise range works across a few mixes from high supplementary cementitious material replacements, recycled aggregates, Repoly fibre reinforcements, just trying to see and use what is available to create a lower carbon concrete mix. We're in early days trials with some zero cement mixes, which has been quite positive. Early stages, but real positive feedback so far. Next page. So a little bit about our zero cement trial so far. The mix itself we've created is we're trying to really hone in on being a circular economy mix using reclaimed sands, reclaimed aggregates, zero cement, and high SCM placement. So it's really extremely new to us. So we're learning every step of the way, but it's showing a lot of positives. And as you can see in the picture there, with on the left side, the real green concrete, just showing the high slag content of the mix. We're getting positive feedback with workability, with strength and all that. Not perfect, but as I said, we're in trials, and every trial we do, we're getting better with it. So next, we've got so our high SCM replacement mixes, we're currently supplying a lot of these mixes to local council now, and with great success to take through. Early days was a bit up and down, but we've seemed to have really nailed the mix now. Quite a few councils in the western suburbs are using this mix, and in particular one council using it with the Repoly fibre mesh, which is making it's quicker labour, less labour costs, no steel being used. It's a smarter all-round mix, which gets more productivity, better for the environment, and we're just seeing positivity through it. Next. So a couple of current projects we've had, obviously with local council and the SCM mixes. We did a project down at Keon Parade level crossing removal, supplying exposed aggregate mix, which consisted using some of the future aggregate replacements. So that was quite a large project for us, and from what I'm all led to believe, a successful project. It's come up well. All the strengths and data we've got has ticked all the right boxes. So it's a good feeling being able to get involved in projects like this to show that we can do it and we're doing it the right way. Obviously, with our Earthwise Zero cement mix, trials are taking place. We're slowly generating interest from John Holland's, KBR, Symal Group, local councils, the Australian Sustainable Federation. It's maybe not a mix that's ready to go to market as yet, but we want it out there to get the conversation started. We want feedback. We want questions. So yeah, that's that. To the next one. So yeah, just a bit of a breakdown of where we're at. Oh God, computer's frozen. Are we still there? Yep. So our mixes don't just tick boxes. We're trying to reduce labour costs, eliminate steel, find a new market where we can target in getting these zero cement mixes, Earthwise mixes with high SCM replacements. We know it's not going to replace the whole concrete world, but we think there's a market where we can get even 5 to 10% of the work using these mixes can make a big difference. That's what we're aiming for. Next. So what we need from, I guess, panel, from people watching, what we're after is to get the conversation started on everything. We're new to this space. We're only a small family business that's trying to grow into this market. So we don't know everything. We don't know what you guys require, what you need. So we're open. We're open for trials. We're open for suggestions. We're open for feedback, good or bad. We're here to put us out there, and let's have a go at this and see what we can do together. Next, we're ready to work. On the next page. We're ready to work and help Victoria build smarter, stronger, and more sustainable. We're just getting started from our end, trying to get ourselves into this market and get ourselves seen that we're doing the right thing and trying to build to be better. That's our biggest focus, is to build to be bigger and be more sustainable for future generations. Next. Next. So a big part of us at Outwest is that we're very connected with our local sporting and community groups. Just a snapshot of who we support, sponsor, follow. But it's a really big thing of us giving back to the people that, the people that help us along the way. So supporting local groups is a really big thing towards us. Next page. Just to finish off. Again, thanks for your time. Sorry for my nerves and hesitations and everything. As you'll see with the picture here, just a quick little snapshot picture. Myself, my father, my uncle and my two cousins, we're all involved in this business, and we're looking to grow it and go to the next level. We're only a small little family business, but we have big plans of growing. So all our contact details are there. By all means, reach out, ask questions, send us an email, whatever it may be. We're here to help. We're here to work with, whether it be new ideas, new products, new anything. We're here to help. We're here to work with, and we want to make a difference. So that's my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Glenn, and I love that. We're ending on the family photo there. So great to see, because I think when we talk about circular economy, we really are talking about providing that care for generations. Sorry to get a bit sentimental there, but I think it's always great to understand this is part of why we do what we do, and probably why everyone here is engaged on this very topic. So I might hand over to Nicholas first. I think Nick, you've first to jump on. Any questions for Glenn?
I do. Thanks, Glenn. It's really good to see a family local business, trying to have a real crack at introducing innovation in the concrete space. DTP has a concrete registration scheme for structural concrete.
Yes.
I assume the product that you're kind of looking at is more around the general paving type concrete.
Correct. Yes.
Yep. So I've just got a question on that. Have you checked how it complies with 703? Because I think when you're talking about the potential opportunities from a MRPV, from a delivery point of view, having a product that complies with the 703 specification is probably the easiest way to really open up the opportunities for a market for your product.
Yep. All right. No, that's something I'll look into. I'm not aware, again, new to it all. So learning all this stuff is what we're here for and what we want to know, so we can try and get in the right direction.
Sure, no worries. It does reference quite a bit about AS1379, which is the specification and supply of concrete, which I assume you're probably familiar with, but there's also additional things in there, possibly about SCM contents and the type of materials and all of that.
Yep, that's right. I'll look that one up. I know there's different specs for all different walks of life in our industry, so yeah, it's a massive thing.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Nicholas. Ben.
Thanks, Stu, and thanks, Glenn. A pretty good presentation, especially if that's your first go. So I encourage you to do more of that. I guess similar questions to Nick, and I guess we have at MRPV tried a few low carbon concrete. Well, at least one comes to mind, low carbon concrete product. And when we were using that, I guess that we encountered some, not concerns, but I guess technical challenges to overcome, not just from things like a concrete strength perspective, but workability and cracking and things like that. So I guess really the only way to learn that is to have a go. You seem pretty confident in your product. So if you think it's ready, it would be trying to find an application. And as Nick mentioned, in a non-structural application, something in a hard stand or a pavement or a mass concrete, just for people to get used to you as a supplier and the material differences and handling it and things like that. Usually the pathways we have for this is it would be through our main contractors rather than we don't directly purchase the concrete very often. So I guess I was going to ask if there's anything you think that's standing in your way of compliance with the standards. I know Nick's pointed you at some good ones there. So if you can meet those things, I can't see anything that would necessarily prevent us being comfortable with you as a supplier. But even if you can't meet those things, I think we're willing to have a look at where we can understand what the particular products that might have some limitations around complying with the specification, and see if we can find a suitable application for testing and work out some of the kinks. So yeah, just encourage you to probably make yourself known to some of our contractors and just kind of keep pushing and see if you can get started.
Yeah, well, that's it. With the zero cement one, that's the big one. We're looking for projects that have temporary work sites or just, not very heavy traffic sites as such, just to get the product out there for trial so we can get feedback. Knowing that it may be ripped up, it may be left there, maybe whatever, but getting the product out there for people to see it, to use it, to know what it's more about, we can then get the conversation started on, is this a viable product? Is this something we can look at going forward stronger with in the future?
I would say durability is often the biggest concern for these products, not necessarily strength. I would be interested in to see, what strength mixes you're getting, but with a product that might have a design life from anywhere from 25 to 100 years, really durability is probably the hardest thing to nail. So yeah,
no, definitely.
Thank you, Ben. Tracy.
Look, Glenn, great presentation. I think I have heard about this mix from a contractor who might be on the call, hopefully. Look, we're keen to know more, and I think particularly in the sustainability space, just understanding that the data that you guys have, what you can share, and I think particularly for DTP, they will want to see the ingredients in the mix in terms of that stuff. So yeah, we'd love to understand a bit more about the product and what's in there, and at least we can kind of support that and facilitate that, find the best application, and certainly keen in that temporary versus permanent space. So I guess noting a lot of our projects have site office set up locations. Again, there could be that element, just thinking about some of those spaces. So I think, certainly look at our panel members. I think that's on the Big Build website, and certainly start tapping on a few of those doors with some of those projects that we've got coming. And I'd also be keen to know about the local councils' feedback and where you guys have used successfully been allowed to use it. That's often a bit of a challenge as well. We have a mix of asset owners in our project footprint. So again, more information, the better informed we can be to say, hey, we've got this spot coming up that might support you. But yeah, for me, certainly interested in the mix. It's a key area for us. Concrete's a big one. So anything that's reducing our carbon or our emissions on the projects, we would advocate for.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, as I said, the zero cement, we haven't got that out in the field in the market, but our, in particular, SCM 55 mix is quite a big one, which is working very successfully, both from a work point to a price point as well. So it's just, it's ticking a lot of boxes, but it's just trying to get all parts of government, council, projects as such on the same page. That's the biggest thing we're seeing and finding from our end is, in ways, the left hand don't talk to the right hand when it comes to a lot of departments. But it's just another hurdle we keep pushing through and working to and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, look, and I think, Nicholas and Ben, great pointers there. Just that spec requirements and registration. Once we're there, we can run.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. But yeah, great presentation. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
There you go, Glenn. Spec 703, and I think there's certainly an eagerness from the client side to see these sorts of mixes on board. So ecologiQ does run a number of various platforms and events to try and connect businesses like yourselves with some of our contractors. Hopefully they're on the call today, but if not, yes, we'll certainly try to make more connections for you. So
yeah, fantastic.
So my internet is a little bit patchy, so I assume I still have the audience there. Glenn, I think there's a question for you in the Q&A, and
Yeah. Oh, I think we've lost.
Oh dear, we've lost Doy. Oh, he's
Yeah,
back. Excellent. I was about to swoop in with my presentation. Okay, back to you, Doy.
sorry. You know what? Otherwise, are you happy to step in for a moment? I think it might. I've got an unstable internet connection, so if you're happy to
Sure,
jump
no
in, and
worries.
we'll take it with block text.
Sure, of course, no worries. Just give me 1 second, and I will share the presentation slides.
I can see, great.
Excellent. Okay, all right. Thanks so much, Anna. Take it away.
Thanks, Lily Rose, and thanks, Doi. Hi, everyone. My name's Anna Mins. I'm here from Blocktex with my colleague Torsten, who's also labelled Anna Mins. He's there somewhere. I'm the engagement manager for Blocktex, and Torsten's our chief scientist. So he will come in and talk more about some of the technical parts of our products and can answer some technical questions if you have them as well. You can go to the next slide. Thanks, Lily Rose. Just a quick introduction. So we are a chemical recycling business. We have the largest commercial facility in the world. We're really world leading in terms of what we're doing in terms of recycling textiles. We have a 10,000 tonne plant, and we collect from all over the country. You can go to the next slide. So before I get into the products that we have and we want to talk to you about, we just want to give you a little bit of context for what we're trying to do at Blocktex. So we're trying to tackle this challenge of textile waste, or as we call it, resource. We think of textiles not as something that you throw away at the end of their life, but something that has high value, and that value can be recovered from textiles. So we try not to use the word waste as much as possible. And we think of textiles as resources. There's not many good solutions for textiles at the end of their life at the moment, typically landfill or incineration or export. There is some mechanical recycling, but we have a process of textile recycling. What we recycle is cotton, polyester, and man-made cellulosics, and together those fibres make up about 82% of all fibre that's produced in the world. Polyester is the biggest fibre that's produced in the world. It's in everything these days. It makes up about 54% of all fibre that's produced in the world. And what makes textile recycling so difficult is that often fibres are blended fibres. So that's really what we do. So if you go to the next slide. This is just a snapshot of some of the clients and where we get our feedstock from. So we work with a lot of organisations to take their workwear, for example. So we've worked with a lot of infrastructure companies to take workwear. We work with laundries, with hospitals. We do a lot of banners. So a lot of banners are polyester. So Flag World, for example, is one of our clients. We take all their old banners to recycle them. And we also work with local councils to collect household linen, and a number of organisations that you can see here, school uniforms, all sorts of things that we take that currently there's no solution for. And on the next slide, this is our facility. And as I mentioned before, it's 10,000 tonnes per annum. It's a chemical recycling process, and Torsten can talk much more intelligently than I can about that process, but it's basically a small amount of chemicals, heat, pressure, water, And we're able to unlock and separate the cotton and the polyester. And we recover two distinct materials. One is a recycled polyester that we call Polytex, and the other one is the cotton and the plant-based fibres break down into a microcrystalline cellulose that we call Celtex. We'll talk a bit about them in a minute. Just want to talk a bit more about the process. So Lily Rose, if you could please go to the next slide. So once we've received garments, we have to remove all the parts of them that aren't cotton polyester. So if you think about buttons, zippers, elastane collars, it could be as simple as a tag. There are also lots of other things that go into garments that people often don't think about. Adhesives, glues, waterproofing is a big one. Things like fusing, which is what makes collars and cuffs stiff, they can't go through our process. There's certain waterproofings that have PFAS. We can't accept them in our process either. For things like buttons, zippers, fusings, elastane, collars, we work with social impact organisations like some here, disability service providers and corrections to remove those parts of the garments. So we indirectly employ about 150 people all around the country to do this work, and it's meaningful work. And then on the next slide, so this led us to think, well, if we could advise our clients on how to design their garments better in the first place, there'll be less need for decommissioning and there'll be less waste as well, the more that we can recover from the garment. So we work with our clients to recommend alternatives to things like zippers. Sorry, I think I've frozen. I can't tell if I've frozen or not.
We can hear you, Anna.
Okay, great.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. We can advise on the componentry. So we can advise in terms of alternatives to nylon, Velcro, for example, or use polyester buttons. And we're even making our own buttons now from the polyester that we've recovered out of garments. And we also advise on the construction of the garments to reduce the need for things like elastane in the garments and so forth. So we really take a holistic life cycle design approach to what we do. But most importantly, on the next slide, is once the garments have been decommissioned, they've been collected, they've been decommissioned, they've gone through our process. And these are the two products that we recover at the other end, and we're mainly here to talk to you about today. And I'll call Torsten in to talk a little bit more about this. But the Polytex is a recycled polyester, and you can see the pellets here. This is you can see it's gone through an extrusion, and then the pellets, and we've actually been able to spin this into a yarn and then knit that into a fibre, which is very exciting. But there are other applications in injection moulding to replace virgin PET. And the other product is Celtex, which is a microcrystalline cellulose. And you can see it's here. This is what it looks like. It looks like a thick paste. And that can be used in land application to replace polyacrylamide tackifiers. It's really just carbon and water, and it can go back into soil. But I'll ask Torsten to talk a little bit more about that, and then we can answer questions about it as well.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. And so I guess sort of in this space for the Polytex, one of the things we can sort of help provide most there is that the Polytex can be used in things like geotextiles and things like geomeshes. So you can then have a recycled geomesh that's made from the recycled textile. And then in the Celtex space, where we see the value in this most is as a binder and a barrier. And so that's either as a part of an erosion control product where it helps to bind together other fibres there that are typically used, such as straws or wood fibres or cane fibres and things like that. It helps to bind that together and either reduce or eliminate the amount of polyacrylamide that's necessary in things like that, as well as a dust suppressant where it provides a really good barrier there, which is completely biodegradable and then will will just sort of vanish with the landscape as you then go to either use that stockpile or to take that temporary site and begin work on it again, to sort of just have that as a covering that's, you know, temporary for a period of time, 3 months, 6 months before you need to start using it again.
And I'd just like to make a similar point to Glenn, in that these are new products and we're doing a huge amount of R&D, and we're really interested to talk to people about doing trial projects and working with us in a partnership to use these products and see how they perform. And that's it. Joe? Walter?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. So cool, really. I especially love, you know, the tagline that you had a couple of slides back, the clothing the world, greening the world, protecting the world. That's really awesome. Great ethos to have. I'll check to our panelists now. Maybe let's start with Nicholas.
Thanks, Anna. Really good presentation. There's obviously a lot of applications or potential applications for your Polytex and Celtex products.
Mm-hmm.
I have maybe I'll just limit to one question just around the quality testing processes you have in place for those products, frequency of testing, you know, type of test, and just around so you have that confidence around what you're actually getting at the end.
Thanks, Nicholas. I'll jump in and answer that question for Anna. So the way we test the products is dependent on the product. So for the Celtex, we'll start there. So every 10 batches, we pull 10 batches, and those batches go off for AS4454 testing. And so that will give us a breakdown of sort of what kinds of metals are present, whether there are any pesticides present, any continuing plant matter, which obviously we don't, but it's a part of the test regime. As well as that, we also work on PFAS, because that's one of our big concerns, that although we do a lot of work up front to make sure our intakes are clean, really one of the biggest sort of risks, like both environmentally and personally, that we all face is that some PFAS comes into the process that we're unaware of. So that testing all goes through for all batches. We pull the 10 batches and then that'll come out. And so every piece of material of Celtex will be tested. And then on the Polytex, on the other side of things there, we've got, in terms of testing, we've got a lot of sort of end-use testing, so standards for the plastics industry. But in terms of environmental testing, there's not as much there, because the use cases there are generally not so directly applicable to land application. Although, if you're aware of testing that we should be doing for geotextiles, I'd be glad to hear it. I know there are some standards there, but in terms of the chemical processes, not so sure.
Yep. No, thank you. Not off the top of my head. I think, like you said, it's quite dependent on what product and what use it's being applied for. But thank you.
I mean, we also do a lot of quality assurance testing before we even go to that quality control point. So to make sure that our process is working, that the separation between the Celtex and the Polytex is done. That's a key quality parameter here, to make sure that the polyester doesn't end up in the cellulose and the cellulose doesn't end up in the polyester.
Thanks. No, it does sound like you've put a lot of thought into the processes in place. So thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Maybe let's go to Tracy.
Yeah. Great presentation. I think, you know, the importance is, you know, uniform, and there's a lot of it in Australia. We get branded uniform on every new project. So I think, you know, just showing the implications of where that product could end up and just how many byproducts from that process is really, really interesting. Probably the one that caught my eye was the Celtex. And I might include Nicholas in this kind of conversation. Really keen to see, in terms of those pulp pellets, opportunities for maybe some base binder bitumen work, whether that's been considered. I know I've looked at it a couple of years ago for trials, but for me that would be a great opportunity if that was a potential trial that's been considered. But using those pellets as kind of replacement binder opportunities within bitumen mixes.
Torsten, did you want to? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. I couldn't find the unmute button. Tracy, very happy to talk about it. We haven't really looked at it as a base binder in bitumen at all. So I'm not particularly well equipped to talk about that because I don't actually know what that involves. So, if you're a good person to talk about that with afterwards, then perhaps we could arrange a conversation after that, and we can talk through it.
Yeah, and Nicholas, don't panic. We're not going to run at this site straight away, but it's some stuff that we looked at with our MIT University previously as well. So there is a bit of literature and potential opportunities there. So.
Okay, thank you.
No, very interested, Tracy.
Yeah, perfect.
Really interesting presentation. I must admit a personal interest in plastics as well as professional. And I'm curious, you mentioned a patented technology to separate these products out and without wanting you to share your secret sauce. My understanding is that kind of the more we heat and cool and heat long polymer chains, is they tend to kind of break down a little and the performance can degrade a little with repeated use. Does your process have an impact on, I guess, the ability for that product to then be something else later in life? Is this a step down from one use to the next and then it's disposed of, or is this part of something you can kind of keep reusing over and over again?
So Ben, the answer to that question really depends on the lifetime, right? So as a textile goes through its lifetime, it will naturally degrade. So polyester, and I apologize if we're getting really technical here, polyester depolymerizes, so falls apart under the application of UV, as well as the application of oxygen, right? As well as heating underwater. So as things go through their life, yes, you'll get some small amount of chain degradation. And then when it comes to the point where you're injection molding a polyester, it doesn't matter what polyester it is, it's always going to degrade its properties slightly. So just one of the factors of polyester, in fact, all polyesters, not just PET, is that they have a certain amount of lifetime before you need to send them to be completely depolymerized into their monomers and then repolymerized again. And so that's no different from bottles. So when you do bottle recycling, you can only bottle recycle so many times, and that's due to the physics essentially of those molecules. So yes, there will be some amount of times that you can only recycle this with our process before it would need to go to a different kind of process. But the energy you save between the complete depolymerization process to get back to monomers, that's very, very energy expensive compared to getting another use out of textiles via our process. And we love the depolymerizers. I think they're great, but it's just very, very energy intensive and very expensive. And I know, for example, in the textile to textile space, people are really struggling to make that work economically.
Yeah, so I guess just as part of that, how are you ensuring the quality of your product as compared to using virgin materials? I know you said it can replace those materials.
We test on the way out.
Okay, testing, right? Okay, that makes sense.
We do a lot of QA testing, so that we understand the quality of our textile, as well as, so there's a lot of different processes that go on in the plant to get the textile ready for extrusion. And so we do that QA testing to make sure that the textile is on spec. If the textile is on spec, then we get pellets that are on spec, and then we do that quality testing to make sure that it's going to meet our customers' requirements.
Sounds very thorough. Thank you.
Cheers, Ben.
Awesome. If there are no other questions from the panelists, then I'll move on to the next section, which is our Where Are They Now segment. So I'm very excited to invite Edwina Walsh here for our Where Are They Now section today. It's basically just an opportunity for us to catch up with some suppliers who have previously pitched at an innovation showcase and just get a bit of a snapshot about what's happening with them now. So established in 2021, Assembled Threads is a social enterprise helping to tackle long-term unemployment for disadvantaged groups by providing training and employment in garment manufacturing at an ethical wage. They have a focus on sourcing locally made and recycled fabrics with an aim to reduce emissions and divert textiles from landfill, which is really awesome. Very textile themed showcase for us today. So hi, Edwina. Thank you so much for joining us today. My first question for you off the bat is, since presenting at the Innovation Showcase, what have been the key milestones or projects for Assembled Threads?
Well, great to see you all. Thanks for having me today. So basically, this slide really takes you through sort of where we started and a lot of the projects that we've moved through in that time. So we really started with a focus on moving people that are really outside of mainstream employment due to lack of education, lack of English, usually lack of any work experience in the Western world, but have a passion for sewing. We used to have an amazing garment industry. Now it's sort of hanging on by its fingertips. So could you embed industry skills training and move people through into a commercial level of sewing in a short period of time? And we were able to show that and actually get an apprenticeship up in this space for the first time since the 1970s in Victoria. So our team were taken through a 20-month in-house delivered apprenticeship via Homesglen. And our second thing was, what can we focus on in the uniform space that's procured in volume, and how can we redefine it, redesign it so that we lower its impact and then look at its end-of-life stewardship. So we focused on high-vis vests because they're basically like a single-use plastic bag. They're coming in the millions. They're now landing in Australia for as low as $2, which shows also huge red flags in that supply chain. So we looked at the high-vis vests. We basically sourced the fabric, the main fabric, using recycled fibres, the bias using recycled fibres. We now have the silver safety tape on a recycled fibre base and recycled resins in the zips. So we started producing these high-vis vests and trying to engage with industry was probably our biggest issue. So we were able to get a grant from Sustainability Victoria, which supported us to make 1,000 vests. That meant that they could go out to industry for free. It allowed us to make sure that they were fit for purpose. We then took them back at the end of the 6 months because part of our project was not just to get the vests out there, was to take them back in 6 months, which is the average lifespan of a vest for all sorts of reasons. Take them back, see how many were used, how many had to be destroyed, how many would still be upcycled perhaps into other product types, how many hadn't even been used at all and would have just been going straight to landfill. And during that process as well, we engaged with Vic Uni and we said, this is the fibre, this is what we're dealing with. What, if anything, could it be used on in the construction field? So basically that sustainability grant really allowed us huge leverage in that early stage to make sure our product was fit for purpose. Through that, we met Icon. Icon then came to us, did a few small orders, and then came back and said, no, we want you to become our national supplier on vests, which was pretty amazing. So it meant that we now supply around Australia. They've got sites in most of the major capital cities across Icon, BARPA and Minicon. And we've been doing that now for 2 years, which is great. The early stage research with Vic Uni, they pivoted some research into structural concrete that they'd been doing and inserted the fibres. So from that really small grant that we had, they were able to say, look, this is actually really promising. They went back to sustainability and pitched a much larger project. And that's where they've created this product called Texcrete. And again, during that 12 months, they were able to lay a pathway on a project that we had introduced them to by Langer O'Rourke. But Sustainability Victoria was so excited at that result that they extended that grant till June this year. And actually, I was able to meet Glenn recently, a couple of months ago, when Outwest partnered with Vic Uni to lay part of a car park. So that car park, again, is having incredible results, especially with the lack of surface cracking, but lower cement content, lower structural steel. So Vic Uni is now looking at the next steps to commercialise that process and that concrete, which is really exciting. From our vests, we also have moved into making custom products for other organisations really wanting to embed recycled products into their supply chain. So the first one is the eco bunting that we developed for Cacti Conserve, another great social enterprise. So currently we've produced over 32,000 metres of this eco bunting. It's been used on rail projects and also in 500-metre lengths down in the hydro project in Tasmania. And then we were approached by Nelson at Stratex. He was very excited to see what was possible with Gork Mesh. So again, we made the pilots for him. We worked out what was required. We searched for that really tough marine ply nylon so that it would be able to, the sewing would withstand rugged weather conditions and weight. They did a lot of testing, which was great to actually watch their process. And after that prototype testing, they came back and said, nah, it's stood up to the strength that we need. We think this is a goer. And so we've been producing that and their other products for them. And it was exciting to see the bin bag that literally, I think, just was delivered a week ago. And so with the Gork Mesh, we really do as much as we can in that space as well. Currently, it can't be recycled because of the polymer coating. So anything that it can be done to extend its life. So when we were approached by Vida, there was pallets of it at the end of a site about to go to landfill. They approached us and also Nelson. Nelson was able to collect it. And we've been able to partner with Nelson when we have any major projects. So this project was site blinds for M80. So it was a safety requirements that they had coverage on their blinds. So they approached us to see whether we could come up with a solution. So the Gork Mesh was an amazing opportunity. And that's the project you can see there. And then through that end of life research, we've done research on collecting uniforms back. And from that, we've designed our own collection and recycling, upcycling service. So we have bins that we put out on site, or we also have boxes to make it a lot easier for the collection. And we do collection with customers. So some people will even come in and drop off. Like this is an example. They had 50 shirts in their cupboard, all brand new. We debranded, repaired the garments, and another customer actually came at the same time wanting to order shirts, and they picked up the upcycled shirts and they went out the door. So wherever possible, we actually, when we're sorting our garments that we collect, anything that is new or barely worn, that we can encourage to be repaired and upcycled, we do so with our customers. And then we have partnerships with some charities that have supported workers that the garments go to, and a new collaboration with workwear opportunities in the top end where they're looking for uniforms. So it's really exciting to see that ability to maneuver those garments, extend their life through not just saying, no, they've got to go to landfill. There's lots and lots of ways that we can upcycle and get them back out into supply chain. So we're really looking at everything we do from a garment industry focus. The first thing is the garment. How can we lower that carbon footprint by embedded recycled materials? Or we also really encourage customers to use materials that are still being made here locally in Victoria. So we do work with Bright Textiles in Wangaratta and Loomtex in Geelong. So we're able to do a fantastic uniform project for the State Library Victoria using a Loomtex fabric, and that's in its third year of ordering. So really good old school duster jackets, fabric being made here in Victoria, which is great. And we've done some projects with Bright Textiles where it's been Australian grown cotton. Fabrics come back, fibres come back into Australia and being made by Bruck, and we've been able to make that into scrubs for other projects that we've done. So that's really where we've been at, and we've been very, very lucky to have been awarded some great recognition for our projects. So with the Sustainability Victoria grant, that partnership with ICON was recognised by Social Traders, both at the state and then at the national level, as a great way to show how social enterprise can be embedded into a commercial operation. And then the sustainability project with Vic Uni and the Techcrete was awarded, we were awarded a sustainability award, and then also the Premier's Pick for Sustainability in 2023, which was fantastic. And last year we also got a Hall of Fame Manufacturing Award, which for me was like an Oscar, because, you know, I think as a social enterprise, people often think that you're more on the crafty side. So it was really validation that we are a commercial operation working to create commercial garments and commercial outcomes, which was really, really rewarding.
Yeah, wow. My gosh, so amazing. So many key milestones. And that are total kilograms, 864.28 kilograms of recycled and upcycled textiles. That's awesome. What a huge achievement. You noted previously experiencing some challenges with industry engagement. Do you mind expanding on what some of those challenges were and how you navigated them?
Look, yeah, the biggest issue that we have is price. So, for example, as I said, a high-vis vest lands in Australia for $2 currently. So that's post the cost of the logistics and the customs. So realistically, that's FOB about $1. So the labour cost, if we're actually making it in a ethical factory, because for it to be $1, it's possibly not being made in an ethical factory. And we know we've got a lot of prison factories, unfortunately, at the moment in China. So that labour cost is probably about 30 cents. We're ethically accredited. The textile union sits under the CMFEU. We have a minute rate that must be used for the labour costs. So everything we make is timed. That timing, that labour cost sits at around $13.50 before we get out the door. And then on top of that, you've got all the raw material costs and overheads. So we can't compete with a $2 garment in any way, shape or form. And that was very difficult for me, particularly to get my head around, because my background is as a product developer for big box retailers. So dealing with China and Bangladesh and getting that garment down to that $2 price point. So I had to sort of really step back, because I think in the beginning we were almost begging people to buy our vests. And then I had to step back and realize, you know, yes, we're making vests, but we're actually selling employment. And for me, it's much better that we have people moved from welfare into engagement, earning a wage and engaging in the economy via tax, than it is for our collective taxes as individuals and corporates going to the cost of welfare. So realistically, if you put that hat on, that vest that lands in Australia that's been made offshore should have something like a $50 markup on it, because that's the cost of keeping someone on welfare, as opposed to it being made in Australia. So it's a recalibration of that piece of being a local manufacturer, and understanding the importance of what we're doing and going, no, this is actually a much better quality garment. The Icon vests actually ended up having local made fabric in them as well, which is really exciting. So there are so many benefits. You only have to order what you need. You don't have to order thousands if you're dealing with offshore, and they last a lot longer as well. We've proven that with Icon. They're hanging onto their vest for 12, 18 months. There's not that, and even longer, I think. So it's a mindset change, and we've learnt that we have to deal with the organisations that understand that. Because if we're just dealing with an organisation on price, that's really business as usual for uniforms. It's really cheap mass-produced uniforms that are made offshore in fast replacement cycles. And so where our lane is, it's those organisations that really want to add value both to local economy and to the environment in their outcomes. And they can go, yeah, okay, we can step outside of that, even if it's just for the vests, and put that into our supply chain, and it's really not going to disrupt it at all. So that's been a learning for us to perhaps back ourselves with what we're doing a bit more.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really such an amazing learning, and super interesting to hear your perspective on how just shifting the mindset and shifting your focus and how that's, really kind of what you've had to do. And behavioral and mindset changes are so difficult, and we all know how difficult they are, and it takes a long time. So, and that's part of, part of what we hope to do here is, get the messaging out and help contribute towards that behavioral and mindset change. So thank you so much for your perspective. That's, yeah, really awesome to hear. And my final question for you, always like to end on a bit of a blue sky question. What would you like to see within industry within the next 5 years in an ideal world?
Look, I mean, for us, we're now at the stage where we're really looking for some key foundational partners to grow. The Assemble Threads model was all about satellites of employment in the areas where the employment is needed. So we take the work to them, but to grow, we need volume income, sustainable income that we can rely on. So it's those key partnerships we're looking to build. And I think it's really industry understanding what value they can have. When companies start to engage, especially what we've found, not just with Icon. I think Icon is such a unicorn in this space in how that they've just reimagined all their procurement. But the smaller organizations that are seeing that behavior are now coming to us, and you can see that how positive that impacts them culturally when they can see the effect and the impact that their purchasing is having. And I think we're always coming from corporate backgrounds where we do need to make profit, and that's obviously always going to be the most important thing for all corporations. But carving off a little bit of that profit for such a huge impact is worth it. So I would hope to see social procurement and sustainability, those decisions not being a nice to have that sit over here, but being an imperative that sits at the commercial table would be what I would hope to see.
Yes, I think you're not alone there. I think most people on this call today probably share a very similar opinion. Well, thank you so much, Edwina. Really appreciate you joining us today and reflecting on your journey to date, and very excited to hear all of the great things which are coming up in future for you as well. Before I wrap our session today, just a reminder that all of the products and suppliers that have pitched at our innovation showcase today will be available to have a look at some more information on our innovations register on our Knowledge Hub. So if you haven't been provided with access to that, make sure that you email us and request access. Some really great resources on the Knowledge Hub, not just the innovation register as well. So jump on there, have a look, get some more information. And of course, we have our conference, our Green Infrastructure Conference, coming up at the end of the year as well, from the 29th to the 30th of October. It's in partnership with Waste Expo, so very exciting. If you scan that QR code there, that will take you to the prospectus, and you can have a little bit of a look. And you should sign up to our mailing list as well to keep in touch with all the exciting updates as we release more information about the conference as we go along. There's going to be a trade show. We're going to have some talks in the plenary, and we're also going to have some wonderful catering. So definitely come along. Looking forward to seeing you there. As always, get in touch with us, ecologic@roadprojects.vic.gov.au. Always happy to have a chat, or if you need access to any more of our resources. And that's it. Thanks very much. Thank you very much to all of our panelists and presenters. It's been a really wonderful session today. Thanks to all of our attendees for the questions in the chat. And as always, have a lovely Friday and a wonderful rest of your weekend, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.